Gotcha.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Speaker Focus Show. I am the world's #1 speaker coach, Kevin T. Robertson, KTR, the world's #1 platform for speaker marketing. I have here with me one of our top coaching students. His name is Flame Newton from the School of Credit. Flame, what's going on with you today, baby?
Man, how's everything going with you, man? How's
Man,
everything?
it's going super fantastic. I'm trying to cop some of that new School of Credit gear that you got on, man. Looking great, looking great.
Man, hey, one thing I can tell you is, man, I'm proud to be here, man, and looking at your speaker focus gear, I know I got to step my game up now.
Well, it looked like you already did it, you know? So Flame, I was really excited, man, to have you on the program today. You know, as always, whenever you and I have talked in the past, just on a, you know, you schooling me about credit, or I'm schooling you about the world of professional speaking. You look like you're in a hotel room again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, you travel all around the country, man, you know, changing people's lives with credit. You know, Flame, you have I'm talking about an unbelievable story, man. Very hard touch. You know, I'm going to give you plenty of time to talk about that. Flame, talk to me about, you know, your upbringing as a kid, man. You know, what made you have that, you know, aggressive mindset to go after business and you know, just not be afraid, man. What happened in your mind when you were a kid, man, to help you deal with fear?
It's a couple things, right? One is that I always say that my family has a great influence on me, right? I would never take that away from them. I always make sure that they get the credit which they deserve. And that comes from a lot of sayings that they say in the household a lot of times, right? And one of the main sayings is that is either you can make money or you can create money, right? And that making and creating money atmosphere has always rearranged my thought process by saying that if I had a job, right, that means that somebody is putting a number of about how much money that I'm worth for them during that particular time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And if I create money, there is no particular time frame for me about the money that I have. I'm creating it. In other aspects is that the creative side of it always came from being able to being competitive. So everything in a household as a youngster was always competitive. I grew up with, as a lot of us, I grew up with my grandmother as being a focal point of being of the person that runs the household. And everybody would always go over grandma's house, right? And so all the cousins, you compete to sleep in a bed. Like, I mean, that's something that no one even thinks about, is to just get the bed to sleep that particular night. I automatically knew that there were two other people that was going to be laying in that bed with me, right? And then as you go from that to, you start moving into sports, and as you start to get into sports and things of that nature, you become competitive in that nature because you're trying to always outdo someone. You always want to become the best at what you're doing. And along with that is, as you can combine a lot of those things together, some of the times those things make you become, as they say, a leader of the pack, right? Because if you grew up with a lot of people, sometimes you want to get away and kind of do your own thing, right? But when you get away and do your own thing, but when you come back to the pack, you're going to have to be able to show something of why you left the pack and what did you learn from that when you left the pack to bring back to the pack, so you can show them how to lead as well. And that's some of the things that I got from them. And I wouldn't take that from nothing in the world with that upbringing of that.
Absolutely. Well, Flame, you're also a proud graduate of North Carolina A&T with those Aggies, right?
Aggie pride.
Aggie pride, you know, Flame represents hard. So, Flame, take us through your college years and how did you develop more of that entrepreneurial mindset that you have? And, you know, take us through the college years and tell me some of the stuff you learned while you were at A&T and what kind of entrepreneur did you grow to be even after you graduated?
Okay, great question too at the point. Man, first off, HBCUs are not recognized enough, right? And I'm gonna first make sure that is on the forefront, that we have a lot of great people that come from HBCUs, not just A&T, but collective as a whole, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But I'm gonna still scream in my Aggie pride for y'all that don't want to hear it, right? But with that, when I got to A&T, I was on a football scholarship, right? And while I was on football scholarship, one thing that I noticed is that my mother, which is an educator for over 40 years, in the school system and in the high school level. But one of the things that she brought to my attention was she was talking to me about scholarships and grants, right? And with these scholarships and grants, posted just about any building of universities, they usually have a little dartboard. And within that dartboard, they would have different grants and scholarships that they would have available for that apartment. So even though that I was on a scholarship, I understood that I can still get provided more money if I apply for these scholarships and I got them. So since my scholarship was paid for through athletics, those grants and scholarships, that if I were to receive them, were now turned into actual cash money because of my scholarship is paid. And now that is given to us in a form of a refund check, right? Mm-hmm. And if you've been in school, everybody loves those Pell Grants and refund checks, right? Mm-hmm. Once I started applying for those things, and a lot of people would not apply for them. They just wouldn't apply for scholarships. And the scholarships would be sometimes, they would be $500 or they'd be $1,500, right? And I would apply for them. And since there was very few people that was applying for them, they would get the money and I would get the money and they would give me back that form. So I was creatively being able to collect these refund checks and being able to get money on that end, alongside getting my school paid for. Then it became time for saying, okay, well, as school is progressing and as my football career is progressing on campus, I had a name for myself, right? And I'm not going to sit up here and play Big Willie like everybody knew me, but everybody did know me, right? And so what I understood was when I used to go to these parties that was on campus, I understood that when you were at these parties, you know, everybody would just somehow gravitate towards me or the fellas, the football team or whatever, because they liked the way that we party. But I had a very slightly bad problem. And that was that I could never stay in the party for the full party. They would somehow end up kicking me out of the party, right? Mm-hmm. And I asked the lady, the lady that actually ran the place, and I asked her, I said, how is it that I can stay in the party? She said, if you threw the party. So I used some of my refund money and I actually had a free party. And what do you know? Everybody and their mother wanted to come to the party with the people that party, right? I ended up leaving that aspect and I ended up taking that, moving it towards, taking it to the club scene and to the party scene. And now people are paying $10, $20 just to party with the people that party, you know, right. And using that form of expertise in the party game. Now we're making a profit off of it by doing these parties. And that sort of moved me to saying, okay, well, look where I'm at. Now my footballer's career is over with. And I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes we should just tell the truth, right? Telling the truth is cool. It got to a point that where I went to school to play football, right? I'm not going to tell you no lie. That's what I thought. But at the end of your career, I ended up realizing that, hey, I only got 18 credits left until I actually graduate. I can actually graduate college if I just take 18 credits after my football career. I ended up doing that, getting my degree at North Carolina A&T and continue my life on that span of that nature.
Mm-hmm. I got you. Well, you know, Flame, we all have ups and downs in life, and you come from a strong family background. I know sometimes I read your quotes on Facebook and something that your dad would say to you that's all inspiring to the people that follow you. And, you know, I know you had a hell of a run. Flame, I can tell by the way you party now, I can only imagine how the way you partied when you were in college, right? And you a whole lot older now. You got a zest and a zeal for life, man, like I've never seen before in my life. And, but Flame, you know, we all fall, you know, we have to grow and learn as we make these mistakes that we're going through. And tell us about some of your hardships after college and how your life started to veer off track a little bit. Tell me how you got involved in some things that were not so pleasant.
Gotcha. Well, after school, as you all know, you go through life and life takes you down different paths, right? But one thing I understood is that me getting a job was just not for me. My very first job offer was with the police department, right? Because I went to school, I graduated with 2 degrees, one in communication and other in chemistry. And my first job was with the police station, right? In the forensics department. But as you know, when you first come out of school, they're only giving you about $30,000. You know, and for the people that paid for school, they had to take out those student loans. I'm like, my goodness. I mean, look how far behind the 8 ball you are if they offer you $30,000 and you end up in $60,000 in debt.
Right.
So you taking those approaches, and as I move forward, life takes you in different directions. And one of the directions it took me was down a downward path. And actually it took me in a spiral direction where I was involved with the group, and these guys were getting identities, right? But they were in the neighborhood of getting 700s and 800 credit scores. And what they would do is they would take the profile and then they would use and abuse them. But I was a Y kid. So first off, let's go back to a Y kid. If you have a child, for anybody that's watching this now, if you have a Y kid, the Y kid is the most dangerous child that you can ever possess. And what a Y kid does is after every single thing that you say to them, they say the word why, right? And the reason that they say the word why is because they're trying to find out what is the root of the problem. So they're going to keep saying why until they can figure out what is the main purpose to them. So you can't just tell them anything. And so what I understood was when I looked at some of these credit profiles that the guys were throwing away, because what they were focused on the 700 or higher credit scores. What I looked at was saying, hey, there's something about that 550. I don't know, but there's something about it. And what the something about it was, I would look at a person and they have 7, 8 different credit cards, maybe 2 or 3 houses, maybe 4 or 5 cars, and they got a 550 credit score. What I understood is at some point in time, you had to have good credit to get to that, to acquire those things. And so I started to do the why questions. I started to get into it a little deep. I got into it so deep to where I started to take on different tasks, as into finding out the people that was running these different organizations and who they were and where they were from and what their background was. And what organizations am I talking about? I'm talking about the things such as like Capital One, which is a credit card, highly developed credit card. And I will look into the executives of those. I start thinking of things like Equifax and FICO. These are the executives that make the decisions in every day, not just the John Harry that you talk to on the phone, but the people that make the upward decisions that are the VPs and the presidents of the company. And I will find out that they would have conferences, workshops, conventions, and seminars. But I found out along the way that these seminars and conferences, these things cost a lot of money. I mean, they cost a lot of money to attend, right? If you're not invited. And what I would do was, I knew that I couldn't afford to go. So what I would do is I would get there prior to, find out they would be at some Ritz-Carlton hotel, and these conferences cost $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and the rooms a night would be $500 a night. And what I would do was, I'm telling you some secret stuff. What I would do is I would sneak in. I would follow the actions of the people that worked at the hotel, along with the people that did the conference and seminars, because the information that they had at these seminars was so valuable to me. And I would know everything about the person that was even speaking, to even their home address, because I was so infatuated with how they ran America pertaining to the credit system. And so I would sit in there and I would suck up all this information, and I would go home and I would study it and I would track it. And then I would get into what you call case law. Started looking up under case law pertaining to the credit and how these things was working and when they got sued and how these things was working. And I got so infatuated with it that I started to use my knowledge of credit improperly and illegally, right? And I'm not going to tell you no lie. The information that I gained from them, I made. Somebody asked me the other day, so how much money did you make? I said, I don't know. I'm just telling you what the government said. The government said that I made millions and millions of dollars off of it. You're spending money as you're getting it. You don't know, right? And so as I was getting this information, I was using it. And what I was doing was I was going back in and I was taking the profiles that had the 550 credit scores, the 500s, the 600s, which are called the people of the dumps, right? Let's call it what it is. Let's call it the dump, right? When people, and some of you all are right now probably watching this and feel like people have washed you away and people have thrown you away, right? And they're calling you the dump. But I'm here to tell you that behind all of that stuff, there's a hidden gem. And I would find that hidden gem. And underneath that hidden gem, I would go in, I would fix up that credit. Then I would use the credit and come back with it. And as they say, what goes up must come down. And it all came crashing down when the feds came in on me. And when they came in on me, it was a very unique situation because it was them talking, saying that what you did, we've never heard, seen, or even done before. And that is taking someone's profile with terrible credit, rebuilding it just to use it again. Because a lot of people say, why would you go through that whole method? Because I understood now that it's not about the credit score. It was about the things that were actually on the credit profile. And we'll get into that later.
Okay. All right. So Flame, you go through that process and you got knocked. So tell me about your tell me about your experience, if you can abbreviate your federal prison experience, and then take me through what you went through when you had to lay your head down for a while, and how did you come out of that experience a whole lot better? Because the Flame Newton that we see right now in front of us is the one that's just changing the world. But you had some kind of change happening within yourself when you had to go to the feds. Tell me about that.
Well, for the people that don't know, right, when you get sentenced, there's a part of the sentencing called allocution. And allocution is where a defendant gets a chance to stand in front of the court to tell the judge why or why not he should be sentenced for his behavior or what sentence he should get. He get a chance to talk to the courts. And I did that. And I stood up. The judge asked me, did I have something to say during my sentencing? And I stood up and I said something to the, don't quote me, man. I said something like, I want to apologize to you, Your Honor. I'm going to apologize to the court. And the judge abruptly interrupted me. And he said, man, tell me something I ain't heard before. Just tell me something I ain't heard before. You know what I'm saying? Like, now you got to understand this, right? The judge sits about 4 to 6 feet high up. He sits at this big thing, what you call a desk or whatever, and he wears this black robe, and he's a white man, right? At this moment, I understood that he had the power of my life in his hands. And that's when my life got real. Because I'm like, whoa, there's no time for play, right? And on the sentencing guideline, the way that he could have structured the sentencing me to where I was at, you know, that's a big difference, all right? And I stood up again, and I told him, I said, Your Honor, there's something that I'm gonna do today that I've never did before, because I cannot tell you something that you haven't heard before. But what I can do today is I can take responsibility for my actions. And then I went into the story. I told him, I said, it wasn't until I got incarcerated that when I was born, I had a spoon. But when I was incarcerated, I understood now that there were some people who wasn't born with a spoon at all. Now, my spoon wasn't silver or gold. I had a spoon, though. And when guys come in to ask you to read to them their mail, they ask you to read the word like today, or asking you about the word always, and you having to help them out with sentencing and you're helping them. I said, there's no better feeling than that, because all my life I've looked up to other people, but it wasn't until I got incarcerated that I found out that other people looked up to me. And with half of the courtroom, with the media, and the other half, my friends and family, they all clapped in unison. And then a prosecutor comes up and he gets a chance to talk, and he comes up with the whole thing and he said, oh, look at Mr. Newton. Y'all all are clapping for him, and look at you, Your Honor. He got you too. He's a fraudster. He's a professional fraudster. Look at him, right? But one thing that we all know, right, is that you cannot fake authenticity. You can't do it. There's no way in the world that you can fake a real Louis Vuitton bag. There's no way around it. It's real, it's real. And so with that structure, I ended up going to prison. And while I was there, I'm walking the yard and I'm doing my thing. and guys would come around to me. And one of the guys pulled me to the side. He said these words to me. He said, Flame, do you not notice that every time that you talk, that people outside of you to have nothing to do with the conversation would stop and listen and be reeled in by what you're saying? Now, prison, for you to understand this, prison is a place where everything that you do, they boo. It's worse than the old Apollo. Y'all remember the Apollo when you came out, right? It was worse than Apollo. So it didn't matter what you were doing, they're going to boo, right? But when I came there and I presented to the guys, that don't forget, but over 80% of the people there are for some type of monetary crime, which is drug offenders. When I introduced them to that credit world and told them about how credit, introverting that credit into their life, it was one thing that they said to me, and it stuck with me like glue. And he said, man, I sure wish they would have taught me credit when I was in school. And guys would always say that to me, and it would stick to me. And I was just sitting around one day in my cell, and my cellie thought I was crazy that day. Because sometimes in your life, that light bulb will go off at the most inopportune time, and you don't even know what hit you. And I'm not talking about the Holy Spirit. I'm not talking about anything like that. It's all different types of things, but it's called a light bulb. And when that thing goes off, it brightens up everything around you. And when I was sitting in that cell that day, it was after the 4 o'clock count. It was 4:37 p.m. and I'll never forget it, right? I said, the school of credit, the school of credit. And I started running around that cell, and I'm an 8x8, and I'm going crazy. I was like, the school of credit. This is a place where people can learn credit one grade level at a time, because they don't teach this in school. And then I started getting into the thing where I said, Malcolm X said that prison was the next best thing to college. So if they gave me a 5-year sentence in prison, but it takes an average person 5 years to complete a 4-year degree, that means I've turned prison into college. It takes an average prisoner $30,000 a year to house a prisoner. So if it costs a prisoner $30,000 a year to house a prisoner, but it also takes $30,000 a year to school a person in college, that means for 5 years, I'm on a $150,000 scholarship. So baby, I'm gonna learn, and I'm gonna teach. And so I took all of that method in, and that's what you got here today. Able to get out and take that road too.
Absolutely. Wow, Flame, that's why I was, I was really, really excited to have you on the show, man. I know it's been a long time coming. We tried to, we had a couple scheduling conflicts, but I wanted to get you on, man. So, it's important that people understand your background and your story and how you get here. And, they always see the finished product. They see the school of credit hats, but you just told us that vision was birthed in a federal prison cell, right? And you couldn't contain yourself because you realized that everybody had to grow in these grade levels. So now, Flame, let's go to, after your release and, the things that you had on your mind. I know you were like a thoroughbred racehorse when they let them out the gate, Tell me what you've been doing since your release from prison, which was a what's the word I'm looking for? Unprecedented case. I mean, that was never, your case is in the law books as something, it's never happened since then. So how did you take that experience? And then tell me what you did when you got out of prison to where you are right now.
Oh man. First off, man, I want to thank everybody that have helped me along the way. Because it's just not me. Even from some of the inmates that I was locked up with, life come at you a little fast when you understand that there's some guys, for example, I just want to throw one of these out there so you could feel the pain. There's some guys that have never got caught with dope, that the feds never seen the dope. And they've received life sentences which they would never, ever come home again in life. And until you get around those type of stories and you can hear the pain out of those, that I have a responsibility now that I'm out here is to make sure that the information that I'm given is one that is accurate, right? Two, it's the most factual information, and I'm doing my due diligence with every single thing before anything comes out of my mouth. That has to be first and foremost, right? And alongside of with me coming home, I was able to not get indoors. So understand that first, not get indoors, because of some of my background from the previously. But it took these women to really structure their lives around me to put me in a better position. And sometimes I use race, and you can understand it why. These were 3 older white women that they heard my story when I was, every single morning, that when I got home, I didn't have nothing. Don't forget, they took everything from me. Every single morning from the time it opened to the time it closed, I would go to the library and I would just sit in the library, and I would not just study information. I would study some of the actions of people around there. I would ask people questions that was happening in their personal lives. And I understood there's a simple thing that the world is missing out on when it comes to all of this. And that word is called life. People go through life where you go through a divorce, you go through a loss of a family member, death. You go through sickness. You go through that loss of a job. You go through so many different things that introvert in life. These ladies took me in, understood my life. They introduced me to different people. The people that I've already introduced myself to, they would not accept me for when I was involved in front of them. But since these ladies introduced me to the same people, now they welcome me in. See how the world works? They welcome me in, and then it was allowed to hear my story and was saying, hey, Dad, we didn't know that. But you would never let a person get their story out to hear it because you were so closed-minded about the situation that they came from. And so when I got home, I got started on little smaller platforms. I started speaking in front of youth. I would take the train and the bus places, and I would sit outside the bus stop, and I would just talk to 5 or 6 people. And I would just go through my routine and what I would talk to them, and people would listen to me. Because how I knew they would listen is because they would ask, how can I get back in contact with you? I need to be a part of you. Because I was listening to the stories of why they were on the bus. A lady with 3 kids and doesn't have any help from the system, but she still gets up every morning and has to drop 2 kids off at daycare and still gets the other one to school. And she's working a job as a cafeteria lady, and she's only making minimum wage, and she's got to provide a roof over there. These are stories that go on every day. Right. And what I could do is I understood these stories, and I could try to help provide a better way. And I introduced them to this other world about credit and how to use it and that sort of thing. And my crowds would get bigger from 5 to 7 to 9. And then it came to a point where I felt like I had something. I wasn't sure. But then as I got in contact with more people, then I got bigger stages and bigger platforms. But I had the information. I just didn't have the structure of how to deliver the information, if it makes sense to anybody that's watching. Absolutely. I didn't have the structure to deliver it. And while I was on Facebook one day, and I was just on there, and you came on, right? And I watch you, and as I watch you, it's one thing about anyone that's in this profession. So if you're watching this video right now, if you're watching KTR with Speaker Focus, and if you're watching me, Flame, with the School of Credit, it's one thing that we all got in common, is that we all want a better life. That's the only reason we're on here watching this right now, is because we want a better life some way, somehow. And I knew that, and when I watched you on there, and then I decided I was gonna make that leap of faith, and I called you, and then our conversation went well, and that's some of the sort of our ordeals. But I'm telling you that everybody's path is not the path for you. It's not. And what everyone tells you not to do, those are some of the same things that can make you successful. Exactly. A lot of times people would tell you not to do it is because they became unsuccessful at doing that path. Right. So what they're doing is relinquishing those fears amongst themselves onto other people. Right. I'm here to tell you today, you have a path, you follow it, and you don't come off of that path no matter what anyone or anybody tells you. Because if you put 100% if you put 100%, not 90, because sometimes people feel like they're giving 100 when they're only giving 90, right? When you sleep, eat, and all you think about is whatever your passion is, right? Now what you're doing is now you have a grafted interest into delivering that information out to the people. And that's the only reason that we're on here right now as a whole of all of us together.
Gotcha. Now, Flame, it's interesting that you brought up, being able to see somebody else that knew how to market themselves on a higher level, who had a system and the structure. But the thing I like about you, what you had a curriculum in your head. You had these thoughts in your head. Tell me how you got tell me how you came up with the curriculum, and if you could walk us through, the grade levels of School of Credit, and maybe abbreviate what you learned in each one of those things. And I know you're working on a book and everything else, so tell us a little bit about that.
Great question too, by the way. Is what I did was, the first thing that I have to do is I have to take away my personal feelings about it. And I have to structure in how someone else takes in what I'm delivering. That's first and foremost. But I have to accumulate everything that I have in me to give to them. What I understood, number one, is before, if you listened to me earlier when I talked about some of the previous stories, when I was getting ready to know some of the people that were in the industry, the first thing that I told you about anything was I would study them. I would study them to a T. No one is ever going to present themselves in front of me, teach me anything without me knowing who they are, where they came from, the origin and the history of them, right? So when I deliver the content to them, credit, the first thing that I have to give out is we talk about the origin, where it came from, how did it begin? Where did credit even start? Because once you get into that mode of it, you start talking about, well, it started off with bartering, and credit is you get something now and you pay for it later. And you start talking about the systems about before, if you made shoes and I had wood, I would change my wood for your shoes because I need shoes and you need wood. This was the first form of it at all. Once people understood that, which is my first grade, my second grade talks about the credit bureaus, where they come from. They know everything about me. All I have to do is pull my credit report. They tell you all your addresses. They tell you your birth dates. They tell you who in your family. They tell you what jobs you had. They tell you everything about you.
But Flame, why don't we know everything about them?
Exactly. And that's what I teach in the second grade. In the third grade, we get into what's on the credit report. You remember when I talked about before, I told you about everything that was on the credit report, how you got to look at the credit report. And it's a short story, and I'm gonna move past it so you understand. If I go to a city, right, and let's just call a city, let's make up a city, let's call it Denver, right? I'm in Denver. I don't know anybody in Denver, not a soul. But if there's somebody sitting at the bar, and every person that comes in this bar stops and talks to that person, hey man, how you doing, man? Hey man, how you doing? He never reaches out to talk to any of them. They all come in and try to talk to him. That lets me know that whoever he is, he's somebody around here, right? And that works the same way with your credit. I understood that if you got certain profiles, that if you got a Wells Fargo and Capital One and Bank of America, and they're all hanging at a table, but Bank of South Maryland comes in, which only has 2 branches, and they come in and say, hey, Bank of America, just like, they throw their head up or throw their hand up. They can't sit at the table even with open seats. And I understood that. So that's the way we make the profile. 4th grade, we talk about bankruptcy. In 5th grade, we start talking about the rules, the acts, the agency, the laws. 6th grade, we talk about what credit scoring, what does it mean? 7th grade, we talking about fixing, disputing your credit. 8th grade, we talking about, pause. What did I say? 7th grade, we talk about disputing your credit. Right. Think about what I just said. I said 7th grade, you start disputing your credit. Anytime that you talk to anyone about credit, the number one thing is trying to dispute credit, number one. There are 600 grade levels that I got before disputing your credit. Why? Because they mean so much more. And these are the things that people are not teaching you. And they're not teaching you because they don't want to teach you. Maybe because they're teaching you because they just don't know.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? So when they don't know, don't get upset because you say, oh, this person knows this and this person knows that. Then 8th grade, we talk about rebuilding your credit. 9th grade, we talk about protecting yourself. What better person can tell you about identity theft than the guy from here? 10th grade, we're talking about banking, everything that's in banking. 11th grade, we're talking about what happens if somebody does something negligent to you, how you get into the court law, the case laws. And 12th grade, we're talking about your dreams and your goals and where you want to go. Because one thing that you're not going to do, because I got to talk the word not, one thing that you're not going to do is just fix your credit up to look good. You're not going to fix your credit up and look good. When you fix your credit up here, you're going to make sure that your credit is now turned into something to where your credit makes you money. That's all we care about, making you money. Okay, and that's something that's what I do from there.
That's pretty powerful, man. You know, we have on the show today Flame Newton, the one and only Flame Newton from the School of Credit. Flame, could you explain to us what the difference between a credit repair company is, or credit repair guy, or credit repair woman, or a credit education? What's the difference?
Repeat it again. It kind of paused on a second for me.
No problem. What's the difference between credit repair and credit education?
Okay, great question, man. That's perfect. Well, credit repair has a job in mind, right? And their job is usually to increase your credit score, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes that's what you want. That's what you're asking for. You want your credit score to be increased because that's all you know. And then if that's all you know, that's what you want to know. And that's all they know, and that's what they're going to do, right? But then when it comes to credit education, it's a total different market and a total different mindset. And that mindset is everybody talks about the difference between credit repair and credit education. First off, for the people that are at home, and if you're watching this, I like to talk to you in monetary. Jay-Z had a quote in the song. And if we can all remember Jay-Z's song, he was at a stoplight and a guy asked him at a stoplight, said, hey, ho, what's the difference between a 4.0 and a 4.6? And Jay-Z said, it's 30 to 40 grand, cocksucker. Right? So that's the difference between credit repair and credit education. When you get credit repair, right, what they're doing is focus on the score. So if you got to think in the mindset of the people that have the money, people that have the money pay other people to protect their money. Think about what I said. And so if you're paying somebody to protect their money, what they're going to do is they got to make the best logical decision in order to give somebody the money. And if they got to make the best logical decision to give somebody the money, they must do protecting their money at all costs. Meaning that instead of you having a 750 credit score and you look on there and they got a Macy's credit card and the Honda Civic, are they capable of handling $50,000 with a Honda Civic and a Macy's credit card? But they got a 750 credit score. Understand that. Mm-hmm. But what about a person that has a 680 credit score that's had 2 houses that was over 100,000, that had 4 cars that was already paid off, that also has 7, 8 different credit cards. One of them had a balance of $50,000. One of them had a $27,000 balance and $13,000, right? Okay, they might have been late a time or two, but overall, they've been able to maintain this, right? The person that has the Honda Civic and the Macy's credit card, they're 21 years old. The person that has this other expectancy, which we're talking about, they're 38, 39. Who are you more likely to give $50,000 to? So these are the things that we have to think about, and that profile tells that story. Your profile is able to be in the room and give you a seat at the table and allow you to talk without you saying a word.
Wow. Now, Flame, how easy, when is it going to become available for people to purchase this information in a book? Or where do people get access to this information so they can go through every grade of the School of Credit? How do you do that?
To see, that's where we at right now is you go to Flame Newton, the schoolofcredit.com. You can find me, Flame Newton, on Facebook. I've developed a very unique system. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's the only one in the world. I want anybody that can correct me, I want you to. Is I have over 5,000 friends on my Facebook page. I want you to be listening to me very clearly and closely, to the people that are listening. I got over 5,000 friends that are on Facebook. I have the amount of followers. I have 2 groups that's over 100,000 people. I have 5 groups over 30,000 people. I got countless groups that are over 500. And not one person of one of my friends has ever paid me $1. Think about what I said. And I'm making a killing out here. Now, one person has paid me $1. So with that being said, is that we take a liking into really helping people, putting you in the best situation possible so you can learn this information. So I understand that we have to build businesses back in our neighborhood, come back in our neighborhood, and take back over our neighborhood. And that's where it always starts. Because when the kids see you at home and they're seeing that you put in the effort, like I tell people all the time, right? And I cannot say this enough, is that when you get your paycheck out, don't hide your paycheck from your kids. Let them see your paycheck. Let them see how much you brought home. As a matter of fact, when you open that bill up and you say, hey, go upstairs, I'm up here doing bills. No, bring them downstairs and let them see you do the bills and show them, say, this is what this bill is. These are the 4 bills that I have to pay this month in its entirety. And this is what mommy and daddy brought home.
So now, what you're saying is you build teams of people all across the nation who teach credit education, the school of credit.
You said what now?
You build these partnerships. I'm trying to understand, how the business model is put together. You build partnerships and you have teams of people all around the country that teach credit education.
What we're doing is, we teach this credit education, but our number one thing is to convert you. We're trying to convert you over to understand, because when people talk, I learned this in the court of law. There are key words that people can say that can change the whole complex of a conversation, right? We all know that, right? One word can change everything, right? The key word that I said was, there's not one person that pays me. I said that. I was clear on that. I was direct. It wasn't hidden between any other words. I said, there's no one person that pays me, because I won't allow a person to pay me. What we're going to do is, since we're in doing business, I'm going to allow your business to pay my business. And what we're going to do is convert you over to a business, so now your business can pay my business. That's the way, that's the energy that we're giving off, because now we got to redirect you into another phase of your life. And
redirect and Flame, because you're just like you're a student on the Speaker Focus platform. Me and Austin and a lot of my business associates are students of the School of Credit. So the Flame not only will help you on the personal side, but what Flame really cares about is helping your business obtain credit as well, because you always talk about credit as being leverage, and credit can help you make money. And it's a very refreshing approach, Flame, other than, pay me money so I can remove stuff off your credit. There's a lot of people that will do that, and they have done a great job at it, have done a great job for me. But then you just kind of are left out there. And Flame, before we get out of here, wrap up the interview, I want to talk about, why you're so dedicated and why you just got a vein popping out your neck and in your forehead when you do your Facebook Lives. Where does that come from, Flame? Like, because I don't see people like that, on our level that give that kind of energy into it, man. There's got to be something that you got some kind of fire under your ass. You got to help us understand where that comes from. Why are you like that? Why you so passionate about us getting this business credit? Trying to get this PPL money and everything else that you talk about. Where does that come from?
Well, that comes from strictly like this. I'm going to help you out, period. And I'm glad you asked that question, and I really do appreciate you asking that. It's because our communities are number one in our lives, point blank, period, right? I'm talking about that house that's across the street from your grandma's house that ain't nobody lived in a few years, right? I'm talking about that barbershop that's down the street from your neighborhood that you all go to that hasn't changed the interior look of it in quite some time. I'm talking about that mom and pop kitchen that is down the street that every 3 years it changes to a different name, a different restaurant, a different something, right? Because what we understand is that you got these places, right? Let's talk about them. Let's discuss them. The Family Dollars, the Dollar Trees, right? The One Main Financials, the Boost Mobiles, right? These places are coming into our neighborhood, right? And they're taking over our neighborhood, right? But they're able to come in and you believe that they're bringing value, but they also decreasing the property value that is in these neighborhoods by the businesses that they bring in, right? My thing is, what we're going to do is we're going to bring our own businesses in our own neighborhood. And we're the most talented people that we can actually find, right? There's no, but my thing is you get all energetic about trying to make sure that you get the J's or you're trying to sell some dope. Like when it comes to selling dope, you get all energetic. You get all energetic about talking about what somebody else is not doing, right? We get all energetic about things that don't matter, right? My thing is we as a whole can contribute in this world in a total different manner by bringing things back in our neighborhood. If you change 3 houses that are on your street, did you not know that the property value of that street goes up? Did you also not know that? Did you also not know that paving the parking lot of the church that has the gravel in it changes what? The property value of the neighborhood, right? Being able to understand that Mrs. Mary that stays down the street, right? All she wants to do is walk dogs, or she walks her dog and she makes this walk every day, right? But did you also not know that people have made businesses out of things that you do every single day, right? Yeah. And when I see people not reaching their potential and I see people not doing it, it hurts my soul because I know for a fact that there's people right now that are willing to do it, that want to do it, and just don't know how.
Just don't know how. Exactly.
Right? Exactly. And everybody could tell you what to do, and everybody could tell you why to do it. But it's not too many people telling you how.
How to. Now, I'm glad you said that, Flame, because, you know, man, when I have you back, we're going to get more into the school of credit and the technical things, like some of the things that we're really supposed to be focused on about the how-tos. Now, before we get out of here, we're gonna talk about you know, the type of speaker you've become since you've been on the Speaker Focus platform. You know, what kind of value did you gain out of coming on the platform from the beginning all the way to the end, and you going out there doing wonderful things with your speaking career?
And there's so many things. One is that you're able to develop content, which is putting things in a positive structure. Whether you like to believe it or not, having your things in a structured moment and understanding how to take yourself, right? This is something that KTR taught me, how to take yourself and be structured with yourself. You can still be yourself. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times people try to become somebody that they're not. Every speaker does not speak the same way. Let's let that be, right? They're all different types of speakers. You got low tone speakers, high tone speakers. You got speakers that keep a lot of energy. Some speakers that can still reach more people with the person with more energy, and they're monotone, right? Why is that? They have a certain way to deliver the information, and that's one of the ways is something that I've learned. Being able to find what works for you, and I think the number one thing of all, right? And I might be stepping out of my boundaries by saying this, but I'm going to say it. I think the number one thing of all is being coachable. Right? Wow. Is being able to take your personal feelings out of things and saying, okay, well, I like to do it like this, but let me try to do it like this. Let me make all attempts, because sometimes people can see things in you which you can't see in yourself.
Right.
And if you allow that time and that opportunity for Speaker Focus or Auston or even KTR, if you take that time and just listen and see in direction that they have for you, now you can understand how to be in a better position. And that's all it boils down to. It's just getting in a better position.
I got you. So Flame, last question. You know, what is the biggest value that you got out of the system that we set up that you follow? Because you said something real key. You know, if you're not coachable, and if you don't want to do the work, you know, putting in the effort, you know, then I'm not saying you can't have success, but it's definitely going to restrict you in some kind of ways. What's the biggest thing you got out of the speaker focus system and just being under our guidance, you know, to help you grow your business?
Number one, it ain't even a shadow of a doubt. It was the communication, and it's the communication that I have with UKTR, speaker focus as a whole, being able to pick up the phone. I call you, I don't understand something, not understanding something, and asking the word why or how or what is it, does it not make you weak? It makes you strong, because now you want to figure out what's the difference, and you being able to communicate back to me in a way in which I can understand changes everything. Because sometimes, and the reason I'm saying this is because sometimes things are more like, have y'all ever picked up the phone and make a phone call and you get it, press 1 for this and press 2 for that and press 3 for this. Yeah. Next thing you know, you press 4, and next thing you know, you
back at operator.
Press 3 for this. You know, everything is so much of a routine that you get lost. And when you got that open communication in which you can ask, you know, speaker focus about which direction that you could go in, mm-hmm. and humble yourself, mm-hmm. to being able to accept those things, I think is the key element to the whole program.
Absolutely. Well, Flame, we sure appreciate you coming on the show today, man. We're going to have you back for multiple sessions because, you know, the information that you have definitely needs to be heard, man. You know, I've been through multiple bankruptcies, foreclosures, repos, water, gas, electric, utilities got cut off, them hanging multiple eviction notices on me. You know, I've been through the ringer just as an entrepreneur, and I've had to, you know, build my credit multiple times, and I had to keep coming back. One thing I like about you, and you're helping us do that, and also your client base, excuse me, is you're helping us see how a company can grow to a whole nother level. You're giving us insights because you do this research like I've never seen before of understanding the banking. You know, Flame understands the laws of banking. He understands how a bank is put together. He understands why a bank gives you money. He understands why your business credit or your personal credit should be in a position to give you that. So Flame, you've earned high 6 and 7 figures. And, you know, the strategies that you learned in Speaker Focus got you on the path of earning high 6 and 7 figures for your speaker business. Tell me about some of the credit conferences that you've blessed to. They've extended you an invitation to come speak. Tell us about some of those things.
Man, I get turned up about this, baby, because you got to understand. For me, it's a little different, right? It's because these are the places that I snuck into. Listen to what I'm saying. I snuck in the bank, in the back door of the bank. And you're telling me that I robbed SunTrust Bank, right, over $300,000, $400,000. SunTrust Bank, I took $300,000 to $400,000 for them. And here they are. They got a credit conference coming up and a banking conference coming up, and it's presented by SunTrust Bank. And they called me to speak? Oh, my God. I mean, what information? FICO conventions, Equifax, Experian, the TransUnion, the credit conferences, you name them. I've been on the platform with people that I looked up to.
Flame, let's not. I'm saying, yeah, let's not be so humble, Flame.
These are people that I looked up to.
Hold up, let's not be that humble. You got invited to speak at the biggest credit conference in the world, which is what?
Credit Con.
Credit Con.
There's no conference bigger than Credit Con. I've been at the underwriters convention, and they all want to hear a side. Sometimes and I'm gonna share this with you. I had to take in my personal decision making and rearrange it to bring out the positive side of it. And I'm going to share what it was.
Okay.
Sometimes I felt on a personal level that they would bring me in to try to mock me out of my situation. Saying, oh, here's the guy that stole credit. Now just bring him up.
Right.
But I knew that once I had that stage, I now control the energy and the information that they was able to receive. So they can leave out of there with me as the guy that was in handcuffs, that was in prison, or they can leave with them knowing that I've been coached by some of the best in speaking, in the speaking business, and that they gotten some positive information that they thought prior to me coming on so much different than after I left. And I understood that I could control that. And just those things alone bring value. And that's what I'm trying to bring. I'm trying to bring value, because there's two things that you're going to say when I finish speaking. And I'll put this out there. And for anybody that's listening right now, I'm going to tell you, it's only two things that you're going to say. Is you're going to say, oh, I didn't know that. Or you're going to say, oh, how did he know that?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I have three things in mind that after I do those, you're going to say, ooh, ah, oh, when I finish speaking, right? You're going to say, ooh, ah, oh.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, that's how it is. Hey, Flame, look. Speaker Focus can't take credit for that kind of confidence. But let me tell you something, bro. We are damn proud to be associated with the School of Credit. Flame, we got to get ready to get out of here, man. We're going to wrap everything up. I really appreciate you coming on the show, man, sharing your knowledge, your expertise, and just being so transparent like you always are, man. And listen, you got one of the most lovable, fun-loving personalities that I've ever had in my life, man. It's an absolute joy doing business with you. When you get serious, you're serious. But when you cut loose and like to have fun, man, you have fun. And, you know, like I said, this won't be your last time on. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Speaker Focus Show. I'm the world's #1 speaker coach, Kevin T. Robertson, on the world's #1 platform for speaker marketing. Our guest today, ladies and gentlemen, he is the preeminent expert in the field of credit education. There is none better. It's just that simple. Check out the School of Credit and Flame Newton. Keep following him. He will definitely change your personal life and your business life and help you change your personal and your business credit. Get up on it, ladies and gentlemen. It's all going down right here on the Speaker Focus platform. Flame, I'll see you real soon, all right?
Peace.
Take it, boss.
Yes.